Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of our weekly Bible reading check in. We are reading the Bible twice in 2026, and we're glad to have you along for the ride. We're in the book of Jeremiah in the heat of the prophets.
Which seems crazy because we're in month 5 of 6.
Yeah.
And we're still in Jeremiah.
Yeah, the New Testament's going to
It's
fly by
going
when
to
we
go
get there.
really fast.
But before we get there, we've got to do some trudging.
Okay, before we get there, we were talking about this earlier, and we mentioned this a couple times.
Yes.
This is maybe the toughest part. I mean, we've talked about repetition, we've talked about law, genealogies, but we just did Isaiah, so we're in the beginning of prophet, a whole bunch
Yes.
of prophets. And a lot of it is very, very similar.
Yeah, a lot of repetition. A lot of challenging images that aren't readily apparent to us what they mean, maybe. I'll just be honest with you, Mike. I am struggling to stay motivated.
Same. It's for a while we were kind of ahead and rolling, and now, I don't know if it's, I guess because it's happening to both of us at the same time. I suspect it's happening to other people.
I imagine so.
But we really are almost there.
Yeah.
There's so much here that builds up to what happens in the New Testament. There's so much, again, Paul calls it a schoolmaster. It is a tutor. And so I guess we go back to the beginning. Why are we doing this? Not to memorize everything, not to win at Bible Trivial Pursuit, but to build the foundation of all this knowledge and information and to park it there, which is going to take a number of readings. I mean, I've done it many times. Andrew's done it. I'm sure many of you have, and I still forget things. We're still kind of seeing new things and new patterns. So that's why.
Yeah.
So I think that's the motivation. We're still building the foundation, though we get to move on and see the culmination, which I think is amazing, because we'll do that in the next 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And so we'll actually see the culmination and everything just really soon now. We gotta punch through it.
So keep the big picture in view, I think, is the idea here.
Right.
Remember why you started this challenge with us.
Right.
And it wasn't so that you could perfectly understand Jeremiah on the first read through, or Isaiah, or Ezekiel, or any of the other challenging books. Something you said made me think about. I think back to when we were reading Genesis. Genesis was fun for me.
Yeah.
And maybe some of you enjoyed that. And part of it was just because we knew the stories, and there was some anticipation of, this story's coming up, or I know what to look for in this story, or maybe I can start looking for other things that I haven't seen. And I don't have that with Jeremiah, just because I don't know the book as well. But the reason we know Genesis is because we've read it 1,000 times, because we've studied it in Bible classes and with our young people.
Those are the stories we start with when we're children, if we grew up in church, right?
Yeah, and so I guess just to build off of what you're saying here is we can start doing that with Jeremiah, and if we keep working through it now, even though it's challenging, the next time we read through it, it'll be a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And the next time it'll be a little bit easier.
Right.
And eventually, if we stick to it, it'll start bearing fruit, and we'll start making connections and seeing things.
Yeah, I think we're in a section of scripture that just doesn't get read a lot.
Right.
So Genesis does, and bits and pieces of Numbers and Deuteronomy and Exodus do, and then of course Judges. There's all those familiar things, Kings and David and Solomon, and then wisdom literature. I think that gets read a lot, as it should be. And then we're in the prophets, and it just doesn't. I mean, we pull from it. We were talking about this earlier. We pull from it to preach from. There's such great. There are great stories in here and great ideas in here. Because,
even just great verses, just statements that we pull out.
And they're amazing. But yes, I don't know that we or many churches go through these books as often as some of the other ones.
Yeah.
And you're certainly not learning about anything in Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, and all that when you're 6, 7 years old, when you're coming up through that. So that all becomes new. You're like, I've never read that. I've never taught that. I mean, we were talking about how many times we've taught Jeremiah or Ezekiel or Isaiah. It's not very many.
Yeah, even in an adult
between
class.
us.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So this is hard, and just stay with us. Keep going. We're going to do our best to keep
we're,
going.
We're going to do it.
We're struggling too. So struggle with us. I guess that's what I want people to know.
I think some of it also maybe it's life happens to all of us.
Sure.
I've had one of those weeks.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
and maybe you do too. And so it's not about you missed it, so give up. I missed it, so maybe you can catch up. Maybe you can't. Just move on. It's okay.
Yeah.
We're reading the big picture, the big context. It's okay if you miss a week. Don't stop. Don't miss a month. But if you miss a few days, it's okay because we'll catch it next time. Hopefully next time, maybe the time that bad week happens and you get behind, it's in a different spot. And so
Sure.
next time, and that's the point, and that's part of why we're trying to do it twice. I think Andrew really wanted to do it 4 times, but he talked himself down from that ledge a little bit.
Someone talked me down. It wasn't me.
But I think the reality is we've been doing it now for 5 months, and
Yeah.
it feels like, man, it's almost, in a way, it's becoming a little bit of work.
Sure.
And so
Sure.
I think we need to acknowledge that, yes, that's true for us too.
Mm-hmm.
But let's keep it up because the benefits, I think, are going to be great.
Absolutely.
Especially after we've done this a couple of times, and we have more. Again, we're building that knowledge base, that foundation.
Okay. So Jeremiah.
Jeremiah
The,
part 1.
part 1. So the reading this week was Jeremiah 1 through 29.
Mhm.
And so if you're keeping up with us, that should be the text that you've read up to this point. It doesn't look good. It doesn't sound good. Like, I listened to a lot of this one, audio Bible.
Yep.
But it was just depressing.
That's,
I mean,
that's Jeremiah.
Jeremiah was calling out sin. He was calling out idolatry was a big sin that they were dealing with, and just kind of letting them know that they were destined to destruction here. Like there was a little bit of like you can make this right, but there wasn't a lot of hope that they would.
Yeah, I think the basic message here is it's done, right? Judgment is going to come, because every time before this, right? Judgment would come, but there would be this light at the end of the tunnel, or someone's oppressing someone and the judge comes, or Elijah comes, Elisha does something happens. God helps Hezekiah, whatever it is, and fixes the problem.
Yeah.
Or at least the immediate situation. People repent, the Assyrians are driven away, or they're killed, or they're turned blind, and one whole army is blinded.
Yeah.
Remember that one? Or something, right? And this time, that's not happening. It's Jeremiah's messages. That's not gonna happen this time.
Yeah.
Pack your bags.
So let's place this maybe historically, just so people, if people struggle to understand where this is, the beginning of the book places Jeremiah's prophetic work roughly in the time of Josiah,
Right.
and then Josiah's sons.
Right.
And Josiah was kind of the last good king of Israel,
There was-
of Judah.
There
Sorry.
was a resurgence under Josiah.
Yeah, he restored the temple, and so he was the last good king of Judah. And his sons after him just sort of were flops in a lot of ways. They didn't follow God. They rebelled against people they shouldn't have rebelled against. They trusted people they shouldn't have trusted. And like every bad choice you could make, they made. And so Jeremiah kind of is inserted into this situation by God to just let everybody know this is going to be the end.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time we get through Josiah's sons, and maybe there's a grandson of Josiah who sits on the throne, but kind of right after you get through with Josiah's family,
very quickly.
very quickly. Yeah. And so that's what Jeremiah's talking about, is this is not good in these final days of Judah, and he's foretelling the coming of Babylon.
Right.
This is the captivity
Right.
that we read about in 2nd Chronicles.
Right, and Israel's long gone, so this has already happened to them.
Yeah. They
And
saw
so
it.
they saw it, and there's this little bit of callback to that, and now it's happening to you for the same exact reason.
Yeah.
So a lot of the prophets felt like they maybe accomplished something, and it feels like Jeremiah didn't, at least in this first half.
Yeah, Jeremiah gets called sort of in the way we traditionally sometimes refer to him as the weeping prophet,
Mm-hmm.
and it's because he keeps talking, but nobody's listening. Nobody's willing to change or repent or do anything that's going to lead them Lead them back to God.
Yeah.
One of the things I thought was interesting as I was reading through was how often it seemed to me like this was a recurring idea. God made it clear on a number of occasions that he wasn't leaving them. He
Mhm.
wasn't abandoning them.
Mm-hmm.
He said, the reason this is happening is because you forsook me.
Exactly.
And that's kind of I think that's a really applicable thing for us to think about today. Like, it's not so much, is God on my side or not? It's I think Ty talked to us about this even back when we were talking about Joshua.
Yeah.
Am I on God's
Am I
side
on
or have I
God's side?
forsaken
Exactly.
God?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean that's always the issue. So that's what idolatry is. We've forsaken God for something else, and it doesn't have to be bowing down to literal idols. It's the same problem, though. We have given up on God for whatever reason, and so that's part of Jeremiah's message, as you said. That's why this thing is happening, and it's going to happen. There's sort of no way out of this particular event. And the problem is nobody listens.
Yeah.
In fact, the other prophets go, nah, Jeremiah's crazy. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
We're Israel. We're Judah. We have the temple, all that kind of talk. We're fine. There's going to be peace. Don't listen to Jeremiah. And they were all wrong.
Yeah.
And yet everyone listened to them.
Yeah. This is another kind of interesting in Jeremiah. And again, the prophets are so repetitive. So this pops up in other prophets as well. But the failure of Israel's leaders, starting with their prophets, but also this is particularly interesting to me because of the series I'm preaching through this year. The priests failed to teach. They failed to hold people to account and lead them in worship like they should.
Well, they were corrupt. I mean, it wasn't like they were just sort of in the background doing nothing. They were corrupt. That becomes apparent in Ezekiel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where they had secret rooms for idols in the temple and all this kind of crazy stuff that you would think is just nuts. And so they weren't just apathetic; they were involved too. And then, of course, so were these kings. And then, of course, as that happens, so are the people. And I think we talked about this somewhere else. This actually was something I was talking about in Wednesday night class where I was last week. We are in the middle or toward the end of Deuteronomy, and you were talking about the people leaving God, not God leaving the people, and that got me thinking about this idea of covenant. So you go back to Deuteronomy. There's the covenant. They're on Mount Ebal and Mount Gerizim, and the blessings and the cursings, and they had made this covenant, and then the descendants there that are going to enter had renewed the covenant. That covenant's been broken, so there are consequences. Jeremiah is saying those consequences are coming due now. But in that context, basically, I can't remember exactly the passage. I think it was in chapter 29, but the idea was out there that the moist and the dry are going to get swept away if you all disobey, like everyone. And so there are good people. We don't want to lose that. Jeremiah is not the only faithful person. There are always faithful people. We're reminded of Elijah and the 7,000, and that remnant idea now is going to become more and more prominent in the prophets as we go. But they broke faith with God, therefore these consequences are happening. And you can read all about what's happening here in Deuteronomy.
Right. You can almost line it up, line for line. One of the things that makes Jeremiah hard to read is it's some of it's out of chronological order. It's kind of wacky sometimes where things are placed, but it's almost more like the book of Jeremiah is just a collection of things that Jeremiah said, and somebody sort of put them all together in a book to sort of collect these ideas that he presented. But in the book, about halfway through, near the end of our reading, there's sort of this little historical narrative that happens. I'm thinking about you were talking about how there are some good people here and there's bad people here, and good and bad are both going to be swept away. There's also a group of people that get left behind in Jerusalem. And Jeremiah is a part of that. So Jeremiah has this really unique perspective. So when we read the Bible story, especially like Kings and Chronicles, we sort of get transported off, if we're just following the story, to Babylon. And we think, oh, look here. Jeremiah gives us some insight into how terrible things got for the people who stayed back in Jerusalem.
Right.
Some of them were okay. Some of them were not okay morally or, in God's eyes. But some of that story there is really interesting. And so if you're looking for like a place to camp out in Jeremiah for a minute and kind of feel familiar, there's some narrative in there that'll be easy to pick up on, I think.
And Jeremiah's unhappy.
Yeah. Thrown in a pit.
Kind of left to rot.
Yeah. Because they didn't want to listen. They were angry at him for foretelling the destruction that ended up happening.
That happened. Which is exactly where we learn, is it in Isaiah, but somewhere where we learn that's how you know the prophet's real. When what he says or she says.
That's Deuteronomy.
Comes true. And like.
That's right. That's right.
I don't know. It's just, like in American history, right? The British are coming. They believed.
Yeah.
And they did what they did. But these people are just like, nah.
Yeah.
It's fine. Everything's great. Babylon's literally on their doorstep. Everything's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're God's people. Because, again, we have the temple. I think that's something that we modern people need to think about. I go to the church, or I go to church, or I read my Bible. I kind of do the things, and that makes me okay. That wasn't their problem.
Yeah.
They were doing the things. They were just not really obedient.
Yeah. Well, and there's clearly some trust issues in Jeremiah as well. They are trusting in the wrong people. They're trusting in the wrong gods.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, some of the early chapters had this language like, you're gonna lean on Egypt, like they're gonna save you from Babylon. That Egypt's gonna snap like a twig and cut your hand open.
Right. But this is not new. This is what they always have done, right? Yeah. It's like every time, instead of leaning on God, they're going to turn to somebody else. And even some of the good kings were kind of victims to it, but they especially did it. The further along history we go, the more and more they do it. And so, yeah, I love that imagery. You're going to lean on Egypt, and it's going to snap and basically spear you in the hand.
Mm-hmm.
And so now what good have you done?
Yeah.
And this has proven to be true over and over in their fairly recent history. This is not something that they would have been surprised at or should have been shocked at. And actually what we're going to see is the same thing. They're going to rely on Egypt. Egypt's just going to take them over for a little while. And then Babylon's, they're going to kind of duke all that out, and Babylon's going to win.
Yeah.
So every time.
That's been an interesting theme ever since the children of Israel left Egypt in Exodus, is they wanted to go back to Egypt. And God kept trying to Moses warned them. All the people warned them, don't go back, don't do it. Mm-hmm. And there's always sort of been this desire to go live like Egypt,
right.
Even if not going back, to set up a king like the Egyptians had, or to marry their daughters and have alliances with the Egyptians, or accumulate horses so that you look like the Egyptians. And in Jeremiah, after they're carted off to Babylon, there's a group living there that finally decides, we're going to go back to Egypt.
And they kidnap Jeremiah, right?
Yeah, and he goes with them. And it doesn't end well.
It's funny. I have actually like a sermon series, like 3 sermons, on going back to Egypt. Mm. And it was some conversation we had like this in a Bible class years ago. And it just, turning around and looking back and thinking how great everything was when, if you just take 5 minutes to think about a minute, it wasn't great.
Yeah.
I mean, they were wanting to go back into slavery.
Right.
Not just slavery, but really, really terrible conditions. And they were thinking, they weren't remembering correctly. So everyone goes, well, Egypt will help us. They've never helped you.
Yeah.
Or whoever it might be, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've never been on your side. And God said they would never be on your side. And so don't. And I think that's the whole point, right? From the beginning, from the garden, God says, I am God, rely on me, trust me, and everything will be okay.
Yeah.
And when we don't do that, everything is not okay.
Yeah.
Every time.
Absolutely. Lessons for us to learn from Jeremiah. We're no different. We're no different. Let me just bring up one more thing before we close the book on the first half of Jeremiah. Let me bring up something I think is interesting. Did you notice how many odd things the prophets did? just like really wacky stuff.
Yeah.
And Jeremiah did a number of them, which is what kind of brought it to my mind this time. Isaiah did some weird stuff, like taking off all his clothes and walking around for a while in the desert.
And,
Um,
John the Baptist, right? I mean,
Yeah.
this is not new. Prophets were
Yeah.
always kind of odd.
on the
I guess
outskirts
they were
of society.
outsiders a lot of times.
Why is that? Do you have ideas about that?
I have surmises. I mean,
Surmise a little bit
but
with
not
us.
all the prophets. I mean, Isaiah was not really an outsider, but he did do some strange
did some
things.
odd
But
things.
these are people trying to make a point.
Mm.
And John going out to the wilderness and wearing, kind of looking like a I don't know, what did he look like a homeless man,
Yeah.
was defying expectations. And I think that's what a lot of the prophets are doing. They're trying, and it was like Ezekiel, we've got some crazy stuff, but that's what they're doing. I think they're
Yeah.
stepping out of kind of the normal role, because I don't think you can take what is the role of a prophet and put it into a box.
Sure.
So, and Jesus does the same thing. He's not what they expected, what they thought. So I think that's a lot of it. They're trying, and then they're trying to teach people. And if when you teach, you try to come up with some way to explain or to get the audience to see your point. And so if that means hiding stuff or walking around naked, I mean that's going to get people's attention.
To get them to notice,
Right.
And maybe also to get it to stick.
Right.
Like,
Right.
it's one thing if a prophet comes and just says, this is what God told me. It's another thing if he shows you in some really bizarre way.
Right.
You
I
know,
mean,
what are you going to do? You're going to go tell your friends, like, guess what I just saw,
Yeah. This guy just laid on his side for a year and a half.
Yeah.
Right? We're going to see that in Ezekiel.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but we're modern people. We're used to pictures. We might say a picture is worth 1,000 words. We have a picture
Sure.
here. Well, we'll use graphics, presentations, because pictures help things stick. So that's a lot of that. They're doing action pictures, word pictures. I don't know what you call it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they're articulating these ideas so that you're not, that's not normal. That's strange. And then hopefully the idea will sink in.
Yeah. I just thought that was really odd, and I don't know if our fellow readers were noticing some of the odd things that Jeremiah did. My favorite was playing hide and seek with the belt. That was the best. Just go hide it in a rock somewhere. You'll come back to it. But there's a lesson there. God's going to come back to his people, right? And so it's sort of a visual representation of what's going to happen.
I mean, we see a little bit of this in the New Testament too. Agabus tying up Paul and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit theatrical, but not for theatric's sake, right? I think that's what we want to remember. Like
for the sake of teaching, for the sake of
we've all seen theatrics for the sake of theatrics. I've done some theatrics in sermons occasionally.
Yeah.
Not here yet. I'm saving that. I'm still a little.
I feel
bit
like that
new
was a
here.
teaser.
I think so, but I've done a few. But I've heard of some even grander theatrics than anything I've ever tried. They weren't always well received, but it is something you're not going to forget.
Yeah. All right. Anything else we need to say about Jeremiah before we call it quits for this one?
Well, there's a lot we can say, but again, just the point, especially this first half, is it's on, people, and pack your bags.
Pack your bags, because you're going to Babylon.
Because you're going. I mean, he tells them just don't even fight it.
Yeah.
This is not something that you can change. It's already been decided by God because of your actions. So this is happening.
Yeah.
I don't guess they know the complete magnitude yet. It'll be a little while before Babylon just bulldozes the entire city and the temple.
Yeah.
From this point, but it's coming.
Okay. So next week we're going to read the second half of Jeremiah, which does provide a little bit of balance to this otherwise really negative book. Like there is some hope. Maybe not for these people, but maybe for future generations, there's some hope. So we'll get some of that. And then we're also going to read Lamentations, which is a very small book that kind of finds its way into what we call the major prophets.
Talk about a book that gets zero press, right?
Yeah. I think we ought to save some time for Lamentations. There's some interesting things in Lamentations. So be sure to read Lamentations, read the end of Jeremiah. And of course, the reason Lamentations gets thrown in there is because it's written by Jeremiah,
Right.
so it's similar settings.
But it's a
similar
very
context.
different situation or setting for the book. It's very different way, kind of literature, I guess.
Yes,
It's
very much so.
definitely more poetic.
Yeah. So keep reading, keep going through it, and we'll be back next week to talk with you about it.
If you have questions, comments, leave them in the spot below. Like and subscribe, all of that good stuff. Get more content like this.
And share it with your friends.
And share it with your friends.
We
And
want
share the
every-
gospel with your friends.
We want everybody to be reading the Word with us. So until next time, guys, we're going to check out, and we will talk to you later.